everybody, welcome. And we're so excited today at the Caloundra Regional Art Gallery to have Marvene Ash, who is our Best in Show winner for our Local Contemporary Art Prize 2026, and is the fabulous work behind us and is the fabulous artist beside us. First and foremost, I'd like to acknowledge the country that we gather on today, our First Nation peoples, the Gubbi Gubbi and the Injilbara peoples. They are our first artists, our first sharers of culture, our first singers, our dancers, our painters, and they continue to share that with us as we walk together on this extraordinary place we call the Sunshine Coast, understanding that the lands are still very connected to them emotionally, physically, mentally and spiritually. And so we're really excited to be here on the Sunshine Coast and to have this chance to talk to Marvene and delve into her making and all of the exciting things that come from a conversation with an artist.
So your mother was carrying.
Like I would say, and always
Self-talk.
Yes, and you know, she'd be lucky if she had any time to do anything. So, but she thought, I think, in terms of her great love of beauty, and she thought like art was important to her, and she would have liked. Well, she was a wonderful woman and my biggest champion. She would have liked me to take that forward. So the idea of me going to art college, also always sort of, it wasn't art college, it was teachers. It just teaches art teachers college. So she would have felt safe for her daughter that there was going to be
Yeah. Because I see that you supported your early career teaching art at the regional Queensland. Which schools?
Really, yeah. I've always stayed in the regional Queensland. I was an art teacher in the high schools and occasionally other things, but I think that, and I was always painting in that time. It means that it's a long time ago, so it's hard to. I mean, I can throw around decades now. I can just throw. Oh, that's like the 70s and 90s, so it was like chicken feed decades, and you know, find yourself talking to people who. So yeah, always there wasn't any regional galleries.
Yes.
There wasn't any real opportunities.
Regional galleries sort of happened late 80s.
Exactly.
And that's when there was a push by the state government to say to regional centres that culture is really important in your area, and if you want to keep your artists there, you need to have somewhere. So I was at Toowoomba, probably 90s, they got theirs, and there was a big push around that time. But as you say, like I did art and it was okay because I could be a teacher.
Yes.
There was always that idea that you would go and teach.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a rock and hard place if you wanted to have a roof over the head. Really, it was about that.
Yes.
You have to make money somehow. So,
did you go back to Olympic to
briefly, straight after art college, and then out to Kingaroy and then out to Bundaberg. And it was in Bundaberg that I really found a group of artists who were like-minded and really firing, and they were sort of a cohesive group around the fine arts.
the Fine Arts School? Yeah, so Fine Arts is a really important and still is organisation which will often send out practising artists out into the regions to work with remote and regional artists and community, teaching them skills and things like that. We're the church's partner. One church was well known, one of the lecturers. I saw when I did Queensland College Art exhibition, and they had photos of Roy getting out of the plane, and I thought, oh, he was a nice looking man. So I'm sure they were very popular in the regions.
Yeah, no, there was, it was really a vital time, and I know a lot of artists from that time who have continued to practice.
That's so good, that's amazing. Mostly women artists, or?
You know, that's funny, isn't it? It's really more men. No, there tend to be, you know, a couple of the artists that I still know, Jennifer McDuff and also John Honeywell and
Williams.
Yeah, they were all part of that group. And very young and very curious and absolutely, it was a good time. There was a sense of great freedom in one's search for.
So that's the 70s and 80s.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you came here in 1986.
Yeah. In the late 80s, I came here. I travelled a lot overseas, and that was connected with art. Twice I've been on very extended, self-funded trips overseas. And
to Europe.
Europe, Scandinavia,
There's a strong European stake within that.
absolutely, yes, absolutely, yeah. It's a great wealth of European Western art.
So you settled here, and were you exhibiting all that time, or was it
Up until the late 80s, I was working and exhibiting, and then I had children. I just got them under the wire. They're quite late. They're both grown up to be fine artists, and so I, just as well that happened. And so about 20 years I kept working, but I never exhibited. So I found myself at 60 really quite at a loss to know how to, without a CD. I mean, these things weren't even important in my earlier times, but they were so important now. Things just changed radically in that 20 years.
Yeah.
So not only who you should be as an artist and how you should even account yourself, but also the whole art was, I mean, in the 80s there was a huge shift and painting was way out of fashion, and then Western art history is like only done ironically, and things seem to be quite, became more and more, and now they just became more and more sociopolitically involved. Yeah. And there wasn't, it's a completely different time. So I was always just going to do what I was going to do, but ironically I was going to find myself more able to do that now.
Yeah.
Because there seems to be, if you can make an account of yourself while you're doing it, there's a big freedom. In fact, it's really asked of us now to be totally authentic with themselves and not try and, feed into that more conversation into whatever passion.
Yeah. Well, so lots of interviews, lots of exhibitions, and then stopped for about 20 years and then started again.
Yeah.
But you were making all that time.
Yes.
So I've got a couple of questions, but which we might start and then roll out of that. So I guess, were you influenced by your mother? How did you first become interested in art as a possible?
I don't know whether I was influenced by mum, but I wouldn't say influenced really, but just she knew it was important. It was sort of sensory deprivation there, because I was stuck out in the bush in a little weatherboard farmhouse with no playmates, and no equipment. You can sit pretty bereft. And I'd be drawing on the veranda, and I'd be milking the cows. I would always be drawing. I can't even tell you how that. It was honestly.
Was that from school? Was it
Before school. I did correspondence for a little while, and then I went into school.
So it was always something, to
Absolutely. I mean, like, it's weird. My grandmother lived. They grew vegetables as a livelihood, and she lived about a kilometre away. And I remember before school walking there to Grandma's house, and you could just one step up from a bar hut, and it was the blocks that day when she had her garden all around, and a big sort of not a big, a small veranda coming out in the front. And I remember being there. I probably would have been 5. It was before I went to school. I went to school back, between 5 and 6, and just wanting to draw it.
Right.
And I don't know how I got paper and pencil, and I did draw it.
Yeah.
I wanted to draw the garden and the house. I mean, that is a very weird thing for a 5-year-old to want to do.
Yeah.
Just, it was like, yes, just going to draw it. So always really keen to
Capture what is
and it's irrational. I don't think it's a nice house, it's a pretty garden, I want to draw that.
Wow, that's amazing. So was drawing your first skill in uni?
Yes, well, of course,
There's just nothing else.
But anyway, it always would have been.
Goodness. And it was always something that was in front of you.
Yes,
Always
not
something
imagination.
not
Not imagination. I don't think I've got imagination.
I'm sure you do. But it's obviously this
The imagination is embedded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
It's certainly when you see fabulous, women surrealists or something like that, I really think that's amazing, and how different that mind would be
to have that, not drawing what's in front, but what's sitting in the back. What has been the greatest influence on work, do you think?
That would be so hard to.
So it's realism is what you particularly found.
It is a realism, isn't it? And it's a lively sort of realism, and it's recreating.
But not to the impressionist idea. It's more leads towards the realism, but with your own flair.
Yeah.
Is there any particular artist or that sort of?
I mean, you kind of went out of fashion again in the 80s. I really love beauty. It's there are things, paintings and images haven't got words. Cézanne's landscapes haven't got words. You don't really know how he got there. There's a lot of, you can feel a hand in there, dabbing, searching. Never and always doubting. I love all that. So, I just think somehow or other that kid who drew that house, it's not really looking for influences. They just want to do what they want to do. And then they do notice sometimes, or often and always really, how other artists are doing things. But in the end, that kid's always going to do what, that's all they can do.
Yeah.
So,
But you obviously had a really strong understanding of how colour moves people's eyes around, how shape does that as well. Like, this sort of all echoes the circle and the circle and the circle and the circle, and the lines, how they drag the eye around this beautiful blue that sits there and there and there and there and there. So you actually have quite a clear understanding of how to paint onto the surface to get influenced by your viewer who use the works as well. But it's obviously also nude. Like that's what your studio is like.
yes, exactly what it's like. So it's cement floor and cement floor goes, it's true, but they are emotional decisions also. It's like sort of, thank you for saying those things about that. It's also like like if you were dancing, you wouldn't particularly think that now you have to put that foot over there.
Yeah.
It's like, it's more intuitive. It might have been learned a bit just from doing it, those kind of formal qualities in the painting.
So memory muscle.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a struggle, a skill struggle in the painting. It's just like, come out. Like when I'm doing the landscapes, which is I've got two branches, one is still life and one is landscape. When I'm doing the landscape and always on my hand, that's very much I'm not thinking about shapes or I'm just responding to the landscape, and it's very hectic and it's very gestural. This one, you're in the studio and you've got time to sort of wonder whether that's exactly the right time or push it back or something like that. But this cerulean colour of this old chair, which is my grandfather's chair, he's got a story. But it was really the way to the painting in terms of its colour.
Yeah.
Because it goes so nicely with the yellow and the raw umber, in particular the raw umber. I like those colours together. So that's why all the time we got a down low is because of all of those raw umberish sort of colours. And then I love the combination of cerulean, as dirty as it is in this painting, with those colours.
Yeah. So did you sketch it first and then paint?
Lots and lots of, not sketched like that,
But sketch
not particulars, maybe coarse brushes, establishment with the brush. But before I arrived at that, there was lots and lots of notebooks and scraps of paper of gouache drawings of maybe a rat's up here or a rat's down there.
Oh, okay. Weird place around it. Yes. Yeah. Right. It couldn't be anywhere in the composition on that side. So you do lots of sketching before, but you don't do that with your landscape. Your sketching is in situ.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
Wow. And it's a completely different mindset too, the landscape. Because this is indoors.
Yes, and you've got that time. Whereas out there you've got a moment and the light changes.
Yes.
Whereas here you've got some control over the lighting and how your shadows fall, etc.
Yeah.
I've got, what would you describe as your most memorable moment in your career? Might be sketching a house at home.
Isn't it funny? Wouldn't it be funny if it was that? I can't think of any others. But if the question was, what's your most art?
Well,
just art most, and not my art. It's my first trip to Europe when I was 25. And you've got to remember that I don't have, this is not a person who has got any exposure to art at all.
Yeah.
So I come from Western Queensland, outside of a western town on a creek, and there's no galleries, there's no museums, there's no books. I'm not kidding, there's no books. And so then at Brisbane, my God, Brisbane in the 70s, I mean, it didn't have a gallery, it was terrible.
Yeah.
The college was more teaching, not so much teaching, but benign neglect. It was a very, it wasn't abundant sort of upbringing, whatever you want to call it. And so going to Europe and seeing things that I had learned about almost from thumbnail drawings, like a Salisbury Cathedral or any of the paintings that you actually see them in the flesh, it was take your breath away. And I thought, and most of those things I was doing in order to do exams. So nobody's, and I thought, nobody told me they were beautiful. They are just so beautiful. Of course, that's all right. That's just how it went. But so that I think those moments really highly, that I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I can remember I too grew up in Ipswich, so outside of the gallery. My family was sports and Air Force, so art was not anything that's considered necessary in life. But when I went first when I was quite older, and I went to the museum there, and went upstairs, and they had a whole room of Picassos, and they had a whole room of Cézannes, and it was like, I just, can I say the word? Can't that beautiful? Can I say? But it was like, oh my goodness, I was standing in front of these things that you had learned, these little artists who changed directions of whole art movements, and they did have beautiful and lush and glorious, and to see them in the flesh is something that I think in the 80s and 90s they had the big exhibitions that came to go to play, which was so difficult because you never got to see these unless you can afford to go to cities. And you suddenly saw these works that, Dali's, any of Dali's major paintings, they're all tiny little things. And yet in the courts you see them, they're usually reproduced larger than they are from life. And they have such power. You think they're enormous. And yet they're these sizes. And the power that they have is quite extraordinary. So, I understand.
Absolutely. I would say that first trip was a trip of demystification of art, because I was now in it, I belonged to it, whereas before it was just all little, almost black and white. And so hungry for it, and then those people actually lived there, and they take it for granted.
Come to the Louvre and just stand in front of the Madonna and child. It's just like we don't have that here in our country. First Nations works sometimes do that too because they're so extraordinarily emotive. But to go and see some of those things is amazing. So that was quite cool. Did it change how you thought about art at all? Picasso is very different to even Cézanne's. Maybe not your landscapes.
I've got a really broad appreciation taste in art. Anything you wouldn't expect books on that. Yeah.
If you've got books that you read up about. Because I was going to say, so you were mostly painting on your table until you got a studio?
Yes.
Yes.
That's like 12 year old baby in a studio.
And
It's a good one there.
Yeah.
It's such a good studio.
It's an old converted
Yes. When I married, my husband Jonathan Davies had converted beautifully, because he builds beautifully, the dairy, which is over 100, it's a bay, or sort of shed, a big shed, which is over 100 years old.
Yeah.
And that just grew leaves must all the time over the couple of decades, 3 decades that I've been there. So there's, courtyard and then coming off the skilly roofs from the big walls were various buildings, and one of them was my studio. That was 20 years ago, and then coming on the studio was a showroom. Again, all connected with the dairy. So why it's called the fourth garage is that we kept building garages. They kept being needed for something else, and so they needed, and the car was always in the paddock. So another garage, another reason why it should be full of something else.
Yeah.
Filled up with something else. So
it is a beautiful space. It's very even that where your house sits in that land. It's a beautiful property, and it looks out and sort of you start to see what you do, what's in there, because it's just glorious.
Yeah.
But there's a sense of peace there, which is quite lovely. And the studio is glorious, and it is that time. It is that time. The time I've seen it is that time.
it's funny how I don't know to be old and tiny, because I was certainly not a mess.
I think that happens as you get older. It's like, oh, I can't call them tiny anymore. I'm just tiny at the time. We do have a couple of questions. We have a question, but I just wanted to. Have you got one piece of advice that stuck with you? Did Betty Churchill tell you anything when you were doing drawing with her? Or
I remember Betty in relation to space. See, really, I don't know if we talk about those formal aspects of paintings that much anymore, and I think, that's sort of a loss, like space or form, but, a gentle type of space is a very thrilling sort of way to, it's an imaginative area that you've created and things like that. I remember asking questions more than anything else. I think that, I think that the most sort of unusual thing about me might be that I had 20 years off of that. And that is really,
well, you didn't have it off, but you still practicing.
but off the radar,
Off the
really,
radar.
and it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
All around me, I could see other careers growing, and nobody even knew my name or knew who I was or anything. If they came in friends, we didn't came from large or something that's more paintings or a few more paintings, but it was very hard at 16, and so that's why I decided to exhibit from that gallery, start where I was, because it wasn't much use going out into commercial galleries and
that's art.
yeah, and I've got no CV, and I had to, and they'd say, well, what have you been doing? And I think that's very difficult. It's sort of a bit of I think it is maybe more a woman's thing, but it could happen to a man too. So
I've just been advised by my tech guy that we missed the first start. There was us chatting but no sound. So I'll just recap. So Marvene is based in the Sunshine Coast, and that's why she's one of our finalists in the Local Contemporary Art Prize 2026. She was born in a small town on the edge of Windy. Then studied art at Brisbane Culver Grove, so that was a teacher's college, and it was the stuff I've heard about it was extraordinary. But from there, she also then went into teaching and taught all around rural Queensland, teaching art and doing other things. Built a relationship with some artists in Bundy, probably found an artist group that sung to her soul,
and a gallery.
Bundy was always pretty active. Was also part of Learning from Flying Arts, which were extraordinary, still are, an organisation which supports remote and regional artists, particularly flies artists in to upskill and do all of those amazing things, and also does an annual regional art award where they tour regional artist works around the state. But as Marvene just was saying, for 20 years she disappeared. Was still making, but off the radar of what we consider the art world. And so that was really how I know that I got to meet you when you first been for local contemporary. So local contemporary or local content, local artists, local content, which is what it was known when I first arrived. And I saw you work. And I think you've been a finalist pretty much every year.
With studio, with the drawing of the studio was one of them.
Yes.
Oh, another one was called Morning Studio. It was so I don't know. I do other things. I don't just sit in the studio.
But and so Marvene was always brilliant, and I have seen works on paper for her, and I know her painting out landscapes. So we were particularly taken with this fabulous work that is the winning work. Invest in Show, which now comes into the question, so I'm really excited by that. I'm sure that Mary's already wrote, like, okay, so where can I get this on my wall? I'm waiting for her to contact us. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster then to come back after 20 years and
It feels good now.
yes, it would be hard.
It was very anxious making that we just wanted that this is who you were.
Yeah.
And it's just no acknowledgement of it.
I think that would be hard, and I think particularly on the Sunshine Coast we have a regional gallery here, which is lovely, very small. But there's not a lot of spaces for artists to show, and that's quite problematic. And there's so many artists on our Sunshine Coast, which is fabulous in many ways, but if you can't show your art, it becomes a bit isolated.
Absolutely, there was the work I was making. There was no way to show outside of Brisbane. Brisbane, as a country, I really am a country girl, and Brisbane intimidates me really because I don't know it. If you're born there, galleries up the road, you get to know people. I don't know anyone apart from my friends in Brisbane. Yeah, so because if you're outside of those regions, it's unless in Heidelberg we had this gallery called Alamander, and all of those fine arts, it was great. That was really active.
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes definitely in regional centres, community spaces, and even commercial run spaces can be so difficult to assist artists in just getting their work shown and seen. I mean, there's a little bit better happening now that web is so good and you can start your own web page, etc., and get your work shown that way. But there's something about the physicality of seeing work in the flesh and having people talk about your work is really exciting, I think.
Oh, yes.
I do have a question. So we have, how has your chosen colour palette changed and evolved over the course of your practice? And do you return to certain tones repeatedly?
Well, when you say that, I start to really think of landscape more than that. And my show before this body of work was called Regular Creek, and it was all the landscape from Western Queensland. A final goodbye because I had to sell that house.
That was your parents'
Yeah.
family home.
Yes, that's right. And those colours are automatically there. They're greys and they're green greys and there's cerulean blue and those colours. I haven't really got access to that landscape. I thought this year my new show would be actually for once to turn my eye to the landscape where I'm in, which I find very, very difficult because it's green.
Yeah, it is the green.
I can't do it. I'm one of the few people in Millennium who's not a fan. And I thought this actual show I would even call it green.
Yeah.
Or evergreen or something.
Yeah.
And just go face this. And I've done about 4 or 5 things of that. I found your one. So I think, what am I? Because this goes to show that I could go back to it. Of course, I go back to it.
Yeah.
I don't have powerful trees here.
Yeah.
But I think that I might just leave that one for a while. So my palette is not, whatever my palette is not green or everything.
So you like for a dry season?
Oh, yeah.
Let me check it.
Yeah.
Those browns and
Right. So it's a funny thing, because it's just so green. It's like my Western Queensland brother calls it posh green. That's where I want.
It is posh those rolling hills of emerald green. So always Irish. So so do you have one piece of advice that you would say to someone?
Oh, advice. It's so flattering to be asked for advice, but I don't know.
Don't give up.
That would be it,
Yes.
wouldn't it? Just sing your own song and don't give up.
And celebrate yourself. Because you do, because you've got your studio, you've
Yes.
into an exhibition space, you've actually sort of promote yourself and actually have belief in yourself in the making to say, this is the body of work that I've done, people come and see it, if you like, here's the face you can. And then you get some beautiful banana leaves that you make. What was it? Beautiful. And a beautiful, beautiful setting, and then surrounded by beautiful artwork as well. So I think it's well, we're really, really pleased to have the Reserve in the collection, and I hope this will not stop you putting in for next year or even for Sunshine Coast National Art Prizes, which is open at the moment. How are we going for time, Stu? You're okay?
Yep.
So, any other things that you want to share?
Gosh.
5 minutes.
So
5 minutes.
Okay.
So, is there anything that you're working on currently? Like, obviously,
We're
not
after
going to do since July, so you're going to keep to the blues and browns.
after the reading about it,
I shall ask that every time I see that.
yeah, something that's really good. I was working with somebody came there with another lady asked Garson, we were going to do this green thing together. Both of us know, I think that it's
Really?
very hard to get into that. Of course, the trees there are very powerful, and that's an attraction.
Yeah.
Unlike the Benjamin trees, which is thin there, like just surviving. Sometimes you can get a big river garden, but often it's all snappy and dry and broken and fallen off. But these trees are like got shape and form. I like that about it. But anyway, quite apart from that, I thought what I might do is spend a year drawing. And isn't that funny that just I haven't done that for really for we've always drawn. Yeah. But what if all the whole everything I did was drawing? And I went down to Lansdale Railway Station, which is right past there so often coming here. And I love those structures and all the different things that are happening there. And I went down there last week and did a small drawing of it. And so this Tuesday, I'm saying, I'm doing a year of drawing. So let's see how that goes. Because if you ask me next Tuesday, because I'm at that time now, not on the roll, but investigating what I want to do. So the green is on the stall for a moment, might happen, who knows. But definitely I've got this idea of drawing as an end in itself for the next number. Oh, they might just keep running on currently, who knows?
So many possibilities. Absolutely, so many possibilities. I like the idea of the drawing. And what's your favourite medium? Is it charcoal? Is it chalk? Is it pastel? Is it lead pencil?
It's well, I like to put down splashes of gouache.
Okay, so it starts with the gouache.
Yeah, so that I've just got that line, and then drawing or working the two together, drawing over the top of it with a hard with a dry some dry medium, which could be charcoal or pencil or carbon pencil or something like that. What I would really like to do all the time is ink, but I find this so intimidating. I find that it's so resistant. I want to draw like this. It's so resistant. I just can't think when we get the right pen, I get the right ink, and it's all about the skill that work. So I waste a lot of money buying different types of things. But ink and watercolor, what a joy that is.
Two things that scare the bejeebies out of
It's
me.
true. Yeah. I don't think
Oh, they're glorious. If you can control it. I end up with usually a hole in my paper.
Yeah.
I've done so much watercolour layering. It's like, oh my god, and that's even using like watercolour pencils and starting there and then pushing the paint out. And then just people who can do and control that and mask that when they don't want the colours to come in. It's extraordinary. It's a medium you do have to understand, I think.
Well, I understand nothing. So I just go at it like a kid, really.
Oh,
And hope, God, this is going to work out.
That 5-year-old.
I'm going to draw this. I'm going to draw this. This is what I'm going to draw. It's honestly, you're right. It's just the subject is very important.
Yes.
And if I've got that subject in place, you can't really stop me.
That's really exciting. And so you do series, you do separate works, or you have one standalone?
Yeah, one usually asks you to do the other.
Yeah.
So it goes like that. But no, I'm getting around with that too. That, also, I took a picture.
So I'm people with that mountain of photos there. So you may do 10 railway stations. I'm the only one. As nice prospects. Have you thought econ brush, like in brush?
Well, that's the Chinese brush.
Yes.
Well, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
No, that you can go really fast with it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I use that one.
Yeah. Okay, but it was Chinese because I think it does control quite contained. But yeah, I'll be really interested to see what comes out there. No green. So as you know, no green. But I have an extraordinary set of drawings that may evolve.
I'd like to, because in a way, the idea of doing drawings like going back to one's core.
Yeah. All right, well that's amazing, Marvene. I think it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. I've always loved your work. I think there's a balance to your work that's quite glorious, and this work just resonates beautifully. I think the judge probably said lots of things about I'm being all lined up, so Stu's doing the whole. So I'd like to thank you very much for coming in and making the time to come and talk to us. It's always lovely to hear from the artists. I shall look forward to your drawings of something with no green, lots of gouache, watercolour, and hopefully some ink.
Well, thank you very much, Jo.
No worries. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.